All right, guys. I'm sorry it's been so long. I actually just moved, and so that was a whole thing. Yeah, that was a whole thing. Let me kind of that so that I can't stop the glare from being in my glasses. I mean, like if I talk like this the whole time, then maybe, but I'm not doing that. So y'all just gonna have to deal with the glare. And in the comments, if y'all have any suggestions or cameras that'll help me with my sunglass not my sunglasses, my what are these called? Blu-ray blocker glasses, whatever. Because I can see. These are for the rays that the screens give off, right? And since I'm already on my phone a lot and then I work from home on my computer, I have to find something to help my eyes so that I'm not, you know, like the rest of the world and squinting someday soon. So, said all of that, which, wasn't at all relevant. I said all of that to say that I've moved, and so that's why I kind of stopped on the videos. I'm also in the process of trying to figure out how to start like a book donation thing for my followers, for my subscribers, where I can actually start donating these books that I'm reading on my page to you guys. So, on my channel. So, these are all things that I'm like working on in my head and like actively working on. Um, and I really love doing this, and I'm really big on giving back to the community and education and books and all of these things. So y'all, my wheels are forever turning. And if you guys have any suggestions ever, you guys can always email me at sparksvillage22 at gmail.com, because I'm always open to suggestions and requests and all of those good things. But today's video is not a story time. It's actually, well, it's kind of a story time, but I'm not reading a book. So I've had a lot of teachers come to me about my current position as a virtual teacher and ask a lot of questions. And I was like, I wonder if people would be interested in this being a video. So that's why I'm here, because I've had a lot of people when I run into them, they're like, especially teachers, they're like, "Oh, that's a thing." Like people aren't familiar with that. People aren't aware that virtual schools and virtual teachers are a thing, and that's literally what I do. So I am explaining virtual teaching and the virtual school world from an African American woman, teacher, young, locked point of view. Okay, so here I am. Um, I wrote down a couple of questions. So if you see me looking down, like I'm literally telling y'all, like I'm looking at my notes, y'all. So I wrote down some notes so that I can stay on track, because I can easily get off track. I'm a teacher. Like our brains go a mile a minute, right? And so I am just giving you guys a little bit of information. Obviously, there are things that I'm not going to disclose, such as my current position, because y'all know people weird out here these days. Like with what company, I'm going to tell you my position. I'm a fourth grade virtual teacher, um, and I work with an online school. So, from my perspective, I've only been a part of two online schools, and one was birthed during the pandemic, right? So, one was, oh snap, we can't be in person anymore. Let's start a virtual academy just in case this happens long term, or just in case this might be a good idea moving forward in the future. This might be a good thing to have in place. So, um, both companies or both schools were fairly new when I joined. So I've been a part of like a physical school that started a virtual school, and then I've also been a part of a virtual school who blossomed during the pandemic, because obviously everybody was like taking their kids out of school. So being in those environments where things are just being birthed, there's a lot of movement that goes on. And as a teacher, I can say I'm pretty familiar with not knowing what to expect every time you walk in the door or virtually walk in the door. You never know what's going to be on your plate for the day as a teacher, no matter if you're in person or online. So I was already familiar with this flexible, you got to just go with the flow. This week is one thing, the next week is another thing. And I will say that I'm getting over a cold, so if I sound stuffy and if I'm like sniffing and if I'm like, yeah, sorry. But yeah, so being flexible isn't something that was like hard for me career wise. Like I've that's literally your life as a teacher. Like you come in one week and it's like, hey, we have this test that we want all of your students to take, and it's mandatory for every student to take it. And you have to stop your instruction and you have to do this because we said so. And then you come in the next week and they're like, oh, yeah, we need you to pull the data and analyze the data and create small groups based off of the test. And who cares about lesson planning and what you have to do in your life? This is what we need you to do. So, flexibility is something that you're going to need in education, period, because it's constantly being revised by people who know nothing about education. But I digress. So, another question that I have been asked was about job security. And I feel like in this day and age, teachers probably have the most job security, teachers and nurses, out of anybody because they're so freaking needed. However, I don't want you guys to have like this cocky confidence about it. Virtual teaching is a little bit less secure because you're not like contracted in the same way that you are with brick and mortar. Um, However, I'm still a part of a contract, but it's easier for either party to back out with um with virtual. So job security, I mean, like, it's still teaching at the end of the day. And one thing that I have faith in is that like if I ever lose my virtual job, and I want you guys to keep this in mind as teachers, like especially like charter school teachers and stuff like that, who have a little bit more of a complicated situation when it comes to job security and stuff like that because it's like performance based and things like that. Um, that you can literally be a sub and make more money than a teacher in a day. And that is something that like I find to be insulting, but also comforting. Because it's like I choose to even if I lose my job for whatever reason, for one, every school is hiring for almost every position. Like schools are tapped staff wise. Every everything everywhere. I mean, it's September 2022. Everywhere is tapped when it comes to staffing. So I feel like teaching is a hot commodity right now. Like I'm not really concerned in that aspect. But I do also have my own business and my own online schooling. So I'm also very confident in my entrepreneurship skills. So job security isn't something that I feel like you have to worry about in the education field right now. But if you were to have to worry about it, there are a lot of other options and avenues that you can go into. And like I said, like with this position, a lot of what I do is soaking up information. And so the things that I do virtually are highly requested with other virtual schools. Like, can you use Zoom? Can you create an engaging lesson? Can you, do all of these things? Breakout rooms. Are you familiar with Nearpod? Are you familiar with uh, News ELA? Just all of these different platforms. And I'm like, yeah, I can use all of that. I've used all of that. Pear Deck, put me on it. Teams, I got you. Uh, Google Classroom, been there, done that. You know what I'm saying? So like, I have definitely expanded my toolbox, my teacher toolbox, by being a virtual teacher. It makes me even more well-rounded. That's not the word I was looking for, but that's the word we're gonna go with. Um, so the next thing is a lot of other teachers ask me about like behavior and classroom management virtually. And one thing that I will say just about classroom management and the environment in general, uh, I have a very diverse base of students. I have a very diverse class of students, no matter when I'm teaching. So um, during the summertime, I'm teaching a lot of like Asian, Chinese, Japanese kids, students, Koreans. Um, but during the school year, I'm teaching, all races. And so to speak to that and to speak to that environment, that are the students whose parents have invested in them learning online, they're not going to be as non-supportive as parents who view going to school as a babysitting service. And I can go off on a tangent about that whole thing, but what I'm saying is there are a lot less behaviors, there are a lot less distractions because depending on the virtual school that you are teaching for, parents have to pay for that. It's just like going to private school or a charter school that you have to pay for. Like this is almost like college. Like this is tuition based. So you think I'm gonna pay XYZ amount of money and you gonna get on this computer and play every day? Oh no, 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 no. So I feel like, parents are more invested in education and as a result, statistics show that when parents are more involved, students do better and teachers do better. Why? Because you have that support. The reason why teachers in the classroom can't always land what they need to land is because they don't have any parent support. So, when it comes to behavior, when it comes to academics, when it comes to the whole 9 yards with students and teachers with virtual learning, I have way less behavioral issues. Now, are there a lot of parameters put in place where it's like, what could they possibly do if they wanted to? I'm gonna just give you an example of some behaviors that might be considered, you know, misbehaving in the virtual world. So, like doing random things on a camera, you know, sticking your tongue out or changing your background 5 times during a meeting, during a session, um, typing in the chat over and over and over and over and over again just to drive everybody crazy or your teacher crazy, doing backflips off of your bed, bringing stuffed animals into the camera and pets into the camera and siblings into the camera. These are all things that are distracting, but they're easily manageable. You know what I'm saying? Like I can, if a student is doing a backflip off of their bed, I can click and turn their video off. If a student is using curse words in the chat, I can remove them from the meeting and they can't even join again. So behaviors are easily manageable. I can mute my whole class and I can make it where they can't unmute themselves. Um, my students have the ability to raise their hand and put their hand down. They're able to give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down. They're able to engage, but it's not as vocal, right? And it's also parameters in place where classroom management turns into a press of a button, right? The same way where if a student is misbehaving and I've kicked them out of my meeting, I can send an email following up to their parents and say, hey, I kicked Justin out today. because he was doing backflips off the bed. Please address that, you know? And that's that. And because there are so many, uh, everything is virtual in a virtual school. So you have to be able to access parents. You know, they're always checking their email. It's not that, oh, you sent me an email. I don't get those vibes. They have to check their email in order to know what's going on with their kids. So when I send an email about behavior, it's addressed immediately. Um, so yeah, that is, I love it. Mm, I probably, the Lord forbid, I don't want to go back into the classroom. And it sucks because if I'm being honest, the students that I'm teaching right now are at a level where they don't necessarily need a teacher. But those are the kids that can do virtual learning. The students that can't do virtual learning are the students who are already behind, already easily distracted, already irresponsible, and by no fault of their own. You know what I'm saying? So, and you do have those students. You do. I don't want to make it seem like a fairy tale. I have students that constantly misbehave. I have parents that I can't get in touch with. However, the majority of parents are highly invested in their children's education. They want them to be able to go to a good college. They probably, have invested in education since the day they were born. And so the kids already have this mentality instilled in them as well that this is important. Now, are they still kids? Do they still get distracted? Do they still roll around on the floor? Yes, but they also still get good grades and they want to learn. I think a lot of teachers can attest to, especially if you teach in brick and mortar, you have students that have an adaptive mentality from their parents or have had a bad teacher, and now learning's not important or fun to them anymore. Or it's just a bad school environment, you know? And so you don't get that online. And another thing about it is, how can I say this? You know how if you were about to do something at work, like if your boss assigned you something to do, and let's say you work at Walmart and your boss is like, I need you to stock. They tell you this the day before. And then you come into work and you're walking over to get ready to stock the cereal aisle. And your boss says, I really need you to stock the cereal aisle. And I was like, you know what? I don't even want to do this because I was literally just about to do that. I don't know if y'all are like that, but that's the type of person I am. And so, why did I make that analogy? Where was I going with this? Okay, so I just blanked, y'all. Wow, that's crazy. I just really blanked. I was going somewhere with that, and it was meaningful. I'm gonna watch this back, and I'm gonna be like, "Oh, that's where I was going." I don't know, y'all. I'll put it in the comments if I remember. But you know, I think that like you don't have to tell these kids what to do. They already have that mentality of like, this is what I need to do, and I'm gonna go do it. And so I think that helps a lot with behavior. Don't know where I was going with that analogy. I was hoping that like the more I talked, it was gonna come back around. It didn't come back around. Another thing that I'm asked about a lot is class size. And my class size is it varies. With the school I'm with now, I could have up to like 75 or 100 students in a class. Um, However, I would probably say on average it's probably within the 30s. With my virtual school, I try to keep it class sizes under 20 because it's just that intimacy is necessary. Now, with a bigger school, with students who are self-motivated, a larger class size isn't detrimental to their education. But just like in brick and mortar, there are students who like fly under the radar, right? Like they're not failing, but they're not doing great, and they're not necessarily getting the attention that they could be getting if the class size was smaller. So class size definitely varies based off of the school. And that's pretty similar to brick and mortar, except for the fact that like there's a teacher shortage. So everybody has large class sizes. But normally speaking, the schools will usually determine, class size, average, things like that. So a lot of teachers also ask me about engagement. How do you keep your kids engaged? How long are you online? Okay, so this is the big thing that I want y'all to get out of this video. Distance learning, virtual learning, two different things, okay? When people say, oh, you're a virtual teacher, they think that from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., I'm on here teaching reading, math, science, social studies, blah, 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 blah. No, that's not conducive for kids. A lot of students fell off the wagon during the pandemic because what they were doing was distance learning. What I do is virtual learning. And so I'm only teaching for a couple hours a day. I'm grading another couple hours a day. I'm doing office hours another couple hours a day. I'm lesson planning another couple hours a day. But I'm not online the whole time teaching. Absolutely not. Who? That's boring. Yes, a kid is going to close their laptop and check out if we're talking 8 hours a day online with minimal breaks, go eat lunch. Absolutely not. For one, we already know the effects of screen time on children, so why would we even do that distance learning thing? I don't know. But the engagement is great when for one, right now, my students pick the classes that they want to go to. So the way that my school works is I'm not the only one teaching math all day. I offer math at the times that I offer it, but math is being offered from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. So any student can click into any class and hop on with any teacher, depending on who's teaching at that time, and get the same lesson. So Miss Jackson might be teaching the fractions at 7, and then I just drew a blank. Miss Jackson. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Ooh. No, but I don't even know. Miss Brown might be teaching that same lesson at 11 o'clock. So if my child wants to wake up at 10 o'clock, eat breakfast, and then log into math at 11 o'clock, they have the freedom of doing that. And I'm not talking about my child. I'm just giving you an example. And then they might go to reading at 12. They might go to science at 1. They might go to social studies at 2, and then they're done. Now, if they need help, guess what? They have different teachers offering office hours till 5, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. So they can go in and say, oh, I went to your math lesson this morning. I'm working on my math assignment this evening. I need help. Let me go to Miss Brown's office hours. Virtual learning. Distance learning is one teacher teaching all subjects all day. There's no way to be engaged in that. I mean, there is, but it's very hard to do that. So with what I do, it's very straight to the point. We do the lesson, We do some practice. You do it on your own. Bye. You realize we're talking about kids here. Like, education is screwed because kids are straight to the point. Have you ever talked to a kid? Hey, I don't like your hair today. Dang. Hello? Thanks. I didn't ask you, but they're straight to the point. So if you say, here's my lesson on fractions, let's do some practice together. I think you got it. Go do it. Guess what they're going to do? Kids can take and apply at a faster rate than anybody I've ever seen. So once they got it, they've got it and gone. Now, you do have those kids that are struggling and they struggle and they might not be straight A students. That just might not be their capacity. That might not be their calling, you know. School might not be their thing. But virtual learning isn't for everyone, and I'm not here to deter or encourage people either way. You would definitely have to know your learning style or your child's learning style. And you definitely have to know like your time management skills and all of that. Like if your child's not responsible enough to make it to class to log onto a computer every day, you might want to reevaluate. Anyway, the engagement is fine. Like playing games, would you rather this or that, to start off the class, or even starting off the class with a quick "Did you know?" I still definitely very much associate and integrate social and emotional learning into my class. We do Wellness Wednesdays where we, listen to soothing sounds or maybe do some yoga. We can do all of this virtually. The same things that you do in your classroom without the everything else, without the people popping in, without the principal popping in and doing evaluations, without the leaky ceilings and the throw up on the floor, without the shoes being untied, without the headaches and the nurse's office passes. Why would I want to go back to brick and mortar anyway? So, the only other question, the last question that I'm going to address for you guys is the question that I get all the time, which is, do you get paid more or less teaching virtually? So I will say that the offers come in low. The offers come in low, but you have to factor in the fact that you don't have to pay for gas. You don't have to pay for school supplies. You're not buying tissue and decorations for your classroom. You're pressing a button. The most you might have to buy is like a headphone set, a monitor maybe, a keyboard, a mouse, some lighting. Way cheaper than setting up a classroom. So that has to be factored in. Um, and you have a lot more freedom, right? So if I want to run to Starbucks for lunch, I don't have to worry about getting back so I can get my kids from PE, right? Like, long as I'm at my computer desk at the time I'm supposed to be there, I'm cool. So, you do have a lot of freedoms that you have to factor in. Um, when it comes to benefits and stuff like that, all of that is highly comparable, but I will say that the offers are a little bit low. But if you have experience and you know what you're doing, you can negotiate. And I just want to encourage Black women across the world to negotiate what you're worth because that's what I did. And I was nervous when I did it myself because I'm like, I'm 20 and they not gonna take me seriously. But why wouldn't they? I'm 20 and I have my master's degree. I have years of experience. I have my own business. Why wouldn't they? And if they don't, then clearly they're the ones missing out. But anyway, so yeah, the pay I will say starts a little bit lower, but it's not anything drastic where it would be like, oh no, I can't do this, in my opinion. Especially for the Like, don't get me wrong, you're still a teacher, right? But I don't feel micromanaged as a teacher virtually. I don't feel anxious every day, other than the fact that, like, I want to teach my lessons well so that my students understand, you know? But that's the most of anxiety that I get, you know? It's like, okay, I want to be a good teacher, you know? But all of that other stuff, oh, is somebody gonna comment on me wearing jeans to work today? Or, you know, all of that extra. Is a parent gonna come up to me and try to snap on me today? Like, those are things that I don't have to think about. And I must say that I'm a lot happier. So, yeah, I love when you guys ask me questions. I love when you guys, comment on my videos. I love when you guys show love, like them, share them, do all of that great stuff. I just wanted to kind of address those things because those are things that I get a lot. So I was like, maybe people are actually interested in this world and they don't know much about it. So let me make a video about it and see what they think. And so this is Virtual Teaching 101. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. And I hope that you guys have a great day and remain positive and all of that good stuff. Yeah. See you guys next time.